President Biden is now in France to commemorate the anniversary of the D-Day invasion. Tomorrow marks 80 years since Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy and changed the course of World War II. Biden touched down in Paris this morning. Tomorrow, he plans to tour the hallowed ground near the beaches, where in 1944, more than 150,000 troops started liberating Europe of Nazi control. Now, this trip comes as Europe is again in turmoil, with Ukraine and its allies struggling to counter Russia's onslaught and maintain a united front. ABC News foreign correspondent Tom Soufi-Burridge is live in Paris for us. Tom, what makes this 80th commemoration stand out to you compared to other major D-Day anniversaries?
Well, Dan, look, there's added poignancy, because if you think about how old those US and Allied veterans had to be when they stormed the beaches of Normandy 80 years ago, you can understand that in 5 and 10 years, many of those veterans will sadly not be here. So it is the last commemoration where we have scores of US and other Allied veterans coming over to France to be remembered in person, to be honoured in person. So that really adds poignancy. The other P is the politics. And I think if you look back to 5 years ago, the 75th anniversary, the war in Ukraine, for example, was limited to the east of the country. Now we have a full-scale invasion playing out over a matter of years by Russia in Ukraine, not to mention the war in the Middle East, in Gaza. There is a lot of politics swirling around these few days of commemoration, not to mention the US election looming, and even European elections for President Macron here in France in a matter of days.
And Tom, commemorating D-Day isn't the only reason the president is making this visit. Russia is making advances in Ukraine. Division is growing in the U.S. and in Europe over the war in Gaza. So what is the president hoping to accomplish on those fronts?
Well, Diane, look, I can give you one specific issue that the White House tell us will be on the agenda in terms of Ukraine, and that will be how allies like the U.S. with France and other key players in Europe will try and use the profits from frozen Russian assets. Hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Russian assets are frozen because of the invasion of Ukraine. They're looking at how they could try and use that money, but not spook the markets financially, try and use the profits so that Ukraine could try and use it to fund its war effort and potentially even try and rebuild the country in the longer term. Then you've got the war in Gaza. Of course, we're only days after President Biden's presentation, where he presented that ceasefire, urging Hamas and Israel to go for the ceasefire, that deal which he outlined just days ago. President Macron on board with that, but that will be another substantive issue, and not to mention many other issues like security in the Indo-Pacific, and also security at the Paris Olympics, which is just weeks away.
And Tom, President Biden is also giving a speech in France this Friday. What can we expect from that?
Well, President Biden, according to the White House, is expected to come up with a few key messages. One, we're told, will be the importance of alliances and allies. The president will emphasize that America throughout the ages has always worked with its partners, like key players in Europe, like the French, like the UK. We're seeing it in Ukraine today. We're seeing the US try to work with allies to pressure Israel and Hamas to get that deal in Gaza right now. So that will be one key issue. Another key issue is also from the president, the importance of honouring the sacrifice of US soldiers abroad, not just in France 80 years ago in that monumental moment when about 150,000 Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy in that epic operation which paved the way towards an eventual victory and the liberation of Europe, but also in multiple conflicts since then around the world. President Biden expected to emphasise that no sacrifice by any US soldier abroad should ever be forgotten. Diane?
All right, ABC News foreign correspondent Tom Soufi-Burridge, thank you.